go. Hello, everyone that's just joining us this morning. I'll just wait as it takes a moment for everyone's audio to connect. But welcome and hello. What I'll do is, as we're waiting for more people to join, I'll just go through some background information and an introduction. So hello, everyone, and Borodal Powell. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sophie Crouch, and I'm a project coordinator at Mentamon, working as part of the Selkie project, and I'll be chairing today's session. Just before we do get started, I'll run through a few housekeeping guidelines, although I'm sure everyone is very comfortable with Zoom. But just if you're not, if I could just ask, muted, if I could just ask that all participants keep themselves on mute and just remain on mute unless otherwise indicated, just to prevent any feedback and ensure that we can hear our speaker clearly. Do please feel free to add the name of your company in your name tag. You can do that just by editing with, I think, the 3 dots at the top right-hand corner of your picture or next to your name, and just be great to see where everyone's joining from. After hearing from Mainstay Marine this morning, we will be holding a bit of a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, of course, please feel free to submit them via the chat, and we will try and get through all the questions at the end of the session. If you do need any assistance at any point, again, just put a message in the chat. My colleague Matt will be on hand to help with any technical difficulties. And then if you are on social media, please do follow us. You can mention at the Selkie project or use the hashtag #MeetTheExpert on Twitter and LinkedIn. And just lastly, as a reminder, the session is being recorded and will be shared on our website in the coming days. So you'll be able to go back and use it as a resource, or of course you can share it with any colleagues or contacts that may find it useful if they weren't able to attend today. So I know a number of you have been involved in the Selkie project and have attended a lot of our events so far, but I will just give a very brief background and update just before we do hear from Mainstay. Is that the right screen there that I've shared? Is that my presentation, Matt?
Yes, it is, Sophie.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. There we go. So just for those of you who don't know, Selkie is a cross-border project funded through European Regional Development Fund and Interreg. So we're focusing on Wales and Ireland region. We do have lots going on in the project. Hopefully that's gone to the next screen, including research and development for the wave and tidal sector. Our academic and industry partners are developing a series of multi-use technology tools for the sector. And we have recently launched a video series on our website, which gives a bit of a snapshot and explanation of these tools and models being developed. They are bespoke for the marine energy sector in the Ireland to Wales region and will be open access towards the end of the project. So if you have a particular interest in any of the tools, please do get in touch and we can give you some further information on their development. As you'll know, we run regular knowledge transfer events in support of the industry. And just looking ahead to September, we have some more Meet the Expert events scheduled, including manufacturing for the marine environment, which will focus particularly on specialist coatings and protection. We also have a session looking at funding and raising investment, as well as opportunities for technology testing and validation from Irish test site Smart Bay. If you are interested in any of these, you can of course register on the website and keep an eye out again on the website and in our newsletter for future events as well, as we'll have some more things coming up later on in the year. As well as knowledge transfer for the industry, we do also offer a range of business support options. So that's all free and funded, fully funded through the project. Those are part of the Selkie network. So you can see some of our businesses in the network on screen now. The support available can include full training in the Selkie tools. If this is something that your company is interested in, we can also provide assistance with data analysis and modelling work, as well as individual business support, consultations and business diagnostics if you're interested. And lastly, we will also be running more networking events as the project progresses. We did have a brilliant networking showcase at the end of July, and we'll be running more of these for the network in the coming months. So if you'd like to know more, please do visit our website, which is selkie-project.eu. Or if you'd like to find out more about how the project may be able to support your business in the industry, you can get in touch directly with myself through sophie@mentormon.com. Very happy to discuss further. So I think that's probably enough from me, and I would like to introduce today's expert and speakers. So this session will be focused on fabrication for marine energy. We're delighted to be joined by our experts today, Charlotte Wood and Mel Lewis from Mainstay Marine Solutions. As a marine energy device fabricator based in Wales, Mainstay has substantial technical understanding of fabricating and assembling prototype devices in marine energy, and they've completed 4 builds, I believe, so far, with possibly a 5th started or on the way. And so they have a fantastic depth of experience in this area. Very much looking forward to hearing from them. So I think Charlotte and Mel, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Sophie. This is the bit when I get a little bit nervous that we'll have a technical nightmare again, but we'll have a go. 2 seconds. Okay, is my slide up with you?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks, Charlotte.
Okay, so good morning all. My name is Charlotte Wood, as Sophie said, and I'm the Business Development and Marketing Manager at Mainstay Marine Solutions, based in South West Wales. I'd first like to thank Selkie for inviting us to speak here today. We are certainly very proud of becoming involved in the industry, and we look forward to sharing with you our journey here so far. I will start the presentation today by telling you a bit about who we are, what we do, and our involvement in the marine renewable industries to date. And then I will go on to highlight the main challenges we have faced and the mitigation strategies we have put in place to alleviate them. So to introduce Mainstay, at the top right of the screen, you will see our 4.6 hectare site on the Milford Haven Waterway next to the ferry terminal in Pembroke Dock. Essentially, Mainstay are marine engineers. Our core management team have been designing and building workboats for over 35 years in our facilities here on the Milford Haven Waterway. Our expertise lies in building steel or aluminium commercial vessels up to about 40 metres in length, and we've exported vessels all over the world, including Pakistan, Antarctica, China and Kenya. And our portfolio of vessels includes survey vessels, pilot boats, workboats, ribs, fishery patrol vessels and passenger vessels, to name but a few. We have a core workforce of around 56 personnel, inclusive of welders, fabricators, painters, shipwrights, electricians and fitters, as well as a fully comprehensive design team inclusive of naval architects, design engineers, electrical engineers and fit-out engineers. Our 4.6 hectare site combines to offer 4,000 square metres of covered workshop space, a wet basin, 2 covered slipways and a roll-on, roll-off slipway, which can accommodate our reasonably new 160-tonne boat hoist. We have a range of fabrication and welding machinery throughout the site, which includes bandsaws, folders, press brakes and guillotines. And all welding is carried out by coded personnel in accordance with Classification Society approved procedures. So how did we diversify into the sector? Well, I would love to say that we researched the market and undertook extensive feasibility studies, but to be completely honest, we were simply opportunistic. We were approached about the Delta Stream device for TEL, Tidal Energy Limited, and soon came to realise that we were ideally placed to build such a device. Excuse me. Not only did we have the relevant facilities and resources, but we quickly realised the challenges we would face in building a marine renewable device we were already dealing with on a daily basis when building vessels. So the first device we built was the very iconic 400 kilowatt, 200 ton Daffodil, which was the first private marine project to be fully developed in Wales. And we really look forward to seeing how this device is weathered in Ramsey Sound with the support of the Tiger Energizer project shortly. The second device that we built was the Ocean Wave Rower on behalf of the developer Wavetricity. In very simplistic terms, the device's large extendable arms, either side of the vessel, move up and down to generate electricity. The third device Mainstay built was the third scale 48-ton wave energy converter for an Australian company called Amwell Consulting. Simple in design, the device extracts energy from the motion of its pendulum structure. The team are currently optimizing designs for upscaling, having tested the device in Falmer. The fourth device we secured was the build of the mainframe, power takeoff unit, stab plate and other additional components for the 75-metre long, 850-ton M-Wave wave device from Bora. The M-Wave device will be assembled and launched from our slipway in the next few months for testing, so please make sure you follow these really exciting developments. The fifth marine renewable energy project we secured was for the fabrication of a new crossbeam and refit works for QED Naval's sub-hub device. The works are nearing completion and we look forward to relaunching the device very shortly. So why are Mainstay winning these projects? Well, we believe it's due to a culmination of reasons, including our location, in the fast becoming marine energy hub, that is Pembroke Dock, and its close proximity to test sites, our facilities, our waterside access, our investment in the boat lift have been instrumental for these prototype deployments. And finally, our core competencies and marine know-how, which appears to set us apart from the rest. So with 4 completed projects under our belt and 1 project well underway, we now feel we have substantial technical understanding of fabricating and assembling prototype devices. But there have been many lessons that we've learned along the way. I've broken this down to 4 topic areas, rather than being device specific per se, due to client confidentiality. First, that we need to understand the nature of R&D projects. Second, we need to understand the marine sector as a whole. Third, we need to understand challenges around marine renewable devices in particular. And fourth, we need to place people at the heart of progress. What do I mean by that? In the first area, understanding the nature of R&D projects, I would say that you need robust financial systems in place. Do your credit searches and due diligence checks on both any new suppliers you may call for and potential clients. We have been bitten by this previously. Whilst many of these projects are financed or part financed, the money is not guaranteed. You will need to manage the risk and work with clients to ensure costs can be fully accounted for. The economic return for R&D project is often difficult to predict, so plan the cash flow well and budget appropriately to manage risk. Agree clearly defined milestone payments, but allow for some flexibility. And finally, make sure you have robust documentation trails in place. The second point refers to the solid change management process that is required. The very nature of R&D projects is complex and many uncertainties and decisions to be made which cannot be specified in advance. You will need to ensure your house is in order. Having a solid change management process in place is a must. Any change to design will nearly always have time and/or cost implications. So you will need to have a solid VO, variation order process in place to ensure everyone is aware and comfortable with how changes will affect the project programme. And always ensure this is signed off and documented prior to commencing work. And my last point is that you need a strong working relationship with the client. There should always be a constant flow of communication back and forth. Regular communication can help preempt issues and resolve challenges quickly, so transparency is vital. Sorry, now my last point is that you need to look at the bigger picture. Firstly, you need to understand the device build programme as a whole to ensure you fully understand which interdependencies exist within the project, which might have an effect on your programme. And secondly, you need to look at how the changes to the R&D project could impact on other projects within your own company. Changes to design may halt production in some instances, or actually put pressure on facilities and resources in another. We constantly find ourselves juggling trades, workshop space, and slipway availability. So you will need to be dynamic and flexible. Our bespoke boat building model has suited prototyping perfectly, as we're well used to working in the area of the unknown. I suspect companies who largely manufacture more standardised off-the-shelf items would find working with our R&D very challenging indeed. Second point is to understand the marine sector as a whole. You need to be able to appreciate the environment. You need to work with and protect materials which need to withstand marine extremities. So with our 30 years experience of launching vessels in these extreme marine environments, we consider ourselves experts in the area of marine proofing as such. And you will also need to understand the importance of working to and around weather windows. I'm sure most developers will agree launching is a critical path activity which is paramount to the overall success of a project. Again, launching vessels is part and parcel of our everyday operations, and so weather conditions are always at the forefront of our minds. The nature of our business has also meant that we have long-standing relationships with marine stakeholders such as the port authorities and tug operators, plus we have vast experience of dealing with MCA approval. There is no doubt that our water access and our launching experience has helped us to win some of the work to date. The third point is to understand challenges around marine renewable devices. Essentially, we've had to manufacture, assemble, move and launch heavy lumps of metal, which most of the devices are reasonably simple structures. The sheer scale of them can bring about different heavy engineering challenges and require larger workshop space or laydown space. With many boats we've previously built, sections have been moved around site manually by a Maffei or trailer, which is not always possible for these larger devices. And you need to overcome rather complex engineering challenges. To extract energy efficiently in extremely harsh environments poses very difficult situations. Our in-house design team has been instrumental to helping us to overcome these electromechanical and hydraulic challenges in particular. The team also productionizes design drawings to provide the workshop with the simplest, quickest, and cheapest method for manufacturing. By assessing the designability of drawings from the outset has proved paramount to the overall success of the project. And my final point is the need to be proactive regarding addressing skill challenges. We couldn't be where we are today without our people. This is an ongoing challenge. We find ourselves periodically competing with the petrochemical industry. Whilst being situated in an energy port has mostly benefited us, as there is generally an abundance of skilled labour locally, this is not always the case during peak shutdown times, where skill sets like welding are absorbed by refineries completely. I feel one of the ways we could overcome this issue is to sell the story and highlight those more intangible benefits of working on the green side instead, which I'll later go on to talk about. At present, there is limited understanding of longer-term commercial scale developments and O&M requirements. So our second challenge is very much around the difficulty in planning for the future for these commercial utility scale developments and the O&M requirements. As you are only too aware, there is still real disparity in the design and makeup of each marine renewable energy device. And whilst, of course, this is expected of an industry in its reasonably embryonic stage, it does make it challenging for us as the supply chain to ascertain which skill sets we should be concentrating our efforts on. For example, where one device may require substantial electrical mechanical involvement, others may require very little. In addition, companies are not always in positions to invest large quantities of time and money on upskilling and recruitment in certain vocations in order to allow us to meet future demand, if there is a lack of clarity on where the developers envisage the devices to be built. Also, once we get to the commercial farm stage, several of these devices will be required in quick succession. At present, the building of prototype devices has suited Mainstay well, as we are well versed at building one-off bespoke workboats, and thus this design to build model comes quite second nature to us. However, moving to a more factory production-like operation would be a whole new way of working for us. And whilst I'm sure we would rise to the challenge, this would require a major cultural shift in our working and our project management processes, which would not happen overnight. At this stage, all we can really do is keep abreast of developments as much as we can, developing close working relationships with each of our clients, and attendance at stakeholder meetings like this is paramount to gaining the intel as early as possible. The third challenge we face is probably the most problematic by far, and it's the availability of highly skilled engineering expertise. Key to the stability and growth of Mainstay and the sector as a whole is skills availability within the area. Unfortunately, we've always found it difficult to attract the likes of electrical mechanical engineers and experienced project managers, both within the local area as well as those living further afield who would need to relocate. As with many rural localities, Pembrokeshire has, for many years, endured what is crudely known as brain drain, a vast number of young, talented individuals who leave the county to go to university only to never return due to the perception there are limited opportunities available to them here. To try to overcome this issue, Mainstay has made a commitment to invest in the education of its local young people through the establishment of our education programme. Our aim is to help educate our local young people in the wonderful world of marine engineering by engaging activities such as school site visits, STEM-only female workshops, offering work experience placements, and giving presentations at enterprise fairs and open days. We've also made a commitment to retain 10% of our workforce as apprentices, and will soon be running a bursary scheme for industry-related undergraduates. We hope that by participating in these activities, we will pave the way for the next generation of marine engineers right here at Mainstay. So to sum up, I have listed 4 top tips. Understand your core competencies, work to your strengths, and understand your limitations. Get your house in order. Ensure you have good stakeholder relationships, strong financial and project management systems in place. Preempt challenges and delays to mitigate risk and develop a plan A, B, C, and D. And finally, in terms of attracting the right people to the area, I believe we as an industry can work collaboratively to alleviate skill shortages by significantly ramping up our marine energy education, not only with young people, but the general public as well. We need a major sector-wide PR push to sell the story, the reliable, green, clean energy story, the wide spectrum of employment opportunity story, and in turn, the economic development of coastal rural community story. So to conclude, Mainstay will continue to strive to position ourselves as leading marine energy fabricators, as we see real value in being part of this industry, as it will play a major part in the future growth of the business and become a key enabler of quality employment for the future generations to come. And I truly believe there is more than enough work to go around. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Charlotte. That's brilliant to hear. And it's just fantastic to see the work, not only that Mainstay invests in yourselves, but also in the industry and upskilling and sort of promoting local skills and development as well. I think it's fantastic. So I think if now's a good time to open up to questions. If anyone has any questions,
I'm just going to come and sit here as well so that we can answer together, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Join in.
So yeah, if anyone does have any questions, do just put them in the chat, or feel free to raise your hand and we can go to you. So we do have a question from Manuel. Manuel, do you want to come on and ask a question?
Which microphone is set up?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, it's working. No, there's my image. My image is gone. My question is, did you were mentioning that you had delays, and did you have any financial claim because of the delays, or could you explain to the end customer that due to lack of human resources, or you simply forgave your delays?
We've been lucky so far that I say lucky, I'd like to think it's because we're good at what we do, but the delays haven't necessarily been our end. It's generally become from the developers because of it's the very nature of R&D projects. Things change, they adapt, they do a little bit of testing and realise that actually they could optimise this particular aspect of the device, etc. So I don't believe, Mel, that the delays come from our end exactly. It's more of a case of, you know, we've been given a time schedule, but actually realistically those timescales do move on because the information that's fed into ourselves, there are delays that end.
Yeah, and that's where it's important about the change process that goes in as well, and the variation orders, because as everyone says, there's a program you all start out with, you have an end date in mind, you have a build schedule to work to, and as you progress, things crop up, things get delayed, and from our perspective, of course, that knocks on to other work as well. So we need to make sure that we're delivering to agreed milestones, and that any of the issues that it might be material changes, it might be additional cost rework where things need to be done. So it usually results in some form of cost increase. But the concern for us, I think, from this presentation is the perspective of have an end date in mind, but have a change process in mind as well, that you know that you've got budget to suit, and the availability to be able to absorb some of that time delay perhaps in your program. Flexibility, really.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for your question, Manuel. I suppose I have a question actually, when obviously it's a big topic really in the industry as a whole in terms of preparing for the scaling up to commercial scale and for arrays as opposed to sort of singular devices. Do you at Mainstay see much scope for kind of collaboration between businesses in fabrication for marine energy?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, I know Mel and I have the same opinion on this. You know, we haven't got a big enough space here to be able to deal with every single marine energy device that comes in. We would be stupid to think that's realistic. So, you know, I would rather have a piece of the cake, piece of the pie, and for a number of different people to be involved and we collaborate, whether it be, I don't know, a Welsh manufacturing consortium or whatever it might be. I think that is the way forward in the future. If we try to be short-sighted, we could lose the industry, and actually we need to think about the bigger picture in the long term and keep marine energy in Wales. We've got to be able to deliver manufacturing to the industry, and so yeah, we can't do it by ourselves. We're very well aware of that. You know, it's benefited us at the moment being early entrants, but we know that people are going to come in and you know, it has to happen because we're not going to get the devices built otherwise. So yeah.
I think collaboration, though, is an interesting point, because how do you actually put that together? For instance, there's numerous manufacturing industries around here, and we could all play a part in building certain elements of that, and it takes someone to take the lead on that. You know, with On Board, I guess we've done some of the fabrication, other bits have been brought in and we've finished them off, other bits have been completed entirely and delivered to be installed, and that's all been done arranged through On Board themselves. But if you were to ask someone to say, well, take on this this big project, which you can't do alone, who takes the management responsibility, the overall business entity that manages that? That's the challenge, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear, and I think, as you say, that the capabilities are here in Wales, and yeah, it'll be great to see sort of collaborations build as the industry grows as well. We did have a comment come through from Shane, who sort of had a similar question really, and Tim's asked about their company. So Shane, did you want to talk a bit about your background at Glenfield Engineering?
Hi Sophie, and thanks Charlotte for the presentation. It was great. Yeah, we're a fabrication company here in Kilmallock and County Limerick in the south of Ireland. We're probably maybe an hour from our Foynes and Limerick ports, so hopefully we'll be reasonably well placed. But yeah, I was just thinking about the collaboration aspect, and if you know that Mainstay are looking at tying up with anybody here in Ireland, depending on where their projects are going. Would it be something that we could talk about in the future? And to Tim, yeah, we're not a marine fabrication company, but we've worked in the energy sector with the likes of the ESB here, or the ESB in Ireland, and we've got good fabrication facilities here in our workshop in Kilmallock. We've got some fairly high-tech welding equipment and automated welding equipment that we think positions us well for repeatability and efficient welding. So yeah, we'd love to get in and see if we could do something in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Shane. Yeah, as I said in the presentation, we're very used to this kind of bespoke model, and so this prototyping has really suited us well. But if we go into the kind of more commercialized, off-the-shelf items, repeated builds, that will change the way that we work and the way that we will need to work as well for the future. So absolutely would be very interested to look into joining companies like yourselves and seeing how we can work together for the future. Absolutely.
Perfect, that's great, thank you.
Great, thanks, Shane. Has anyone else got any further questions? Do feel free to come in.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't actually work out how to raise my hand, so I'm just going to shout.
That's all right, you go for it, John.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're obviously, because the devices that you're building are prototypes, and because of that, they're probably not very refined in how you actually manufacture them. And it was interesting your comment about wanting to get more involved in the factory manufacture side. But do you actually feedback learnings during the manufacture process as to how it might be improved in terms of the build? Because prototype devices, sort of in my limited experience, are normally designed more about function than sort of efficiency of manufacture. And so when you actually come to manufacture, do you feed your learnings back to sort of give the designers and developers a better understanding of how it might be built on a larger scale or in larger quantities? That makes sense.
Yeah, I think one good thing is from main perspective is that we've got the design team in-house. So whilst I'm sure that we do feedback, actually it starts a bit earlier than that. It starts at kind of initial project meeting where we can sit down and have a look at kind of the initial designs. And basically our job is kind of productionize those designs, actually make them, as you said, workable from actually manufacturing perspective. So that kind of looking at efficiencies, looking at the best way to do things is right through the project rather than just at the end and feeding back, if you like. And we've definitely seen advantages of that. And actually each of our clients can see as actually this is what we bring extra to the project, I guess.
Yeah, exactly that. Not just design either. It might be on the shop floor where we're trying to do something and you realise at that point that this isn't going to necessarily work as well this way, let's do it a different way. And I'm sure other engineering companies do similar things as well to that as things are being built. But these are prototypes, so you're not trying to totally refine the build at that point. It's usually, as you say, proof of concept at that stage, and then how they take it forward is another thing. But we're happy to get involved with those aspects as well, helping refine the build.
Great. Have we got another question from Edward?
Yes, I work for TFI Marine. We're a Dublin-based marine mooring specialist. What we're struggling with is recruitment. Ireland does not have a big maritime industry, and we need to expand our number of marine engineers. Charlotte said earlier that getting people to stay in South Wales is an issue. It's certainly an issue here. Just wondered how she had managed to address that and attract people to come in.
Yeah, it does continue to be a problem, and that's what we've kind of developed our education program to do, so that, okay, the young people understand earlier on that they've got this marine engineering industry here in Southwest Wales. So, okay, brilliant, go to university, but make sure you come back to us. So we really want to influence young people earlier on so they're aware of what's going on. We are out on the end here in Pembrokeshire in comparison to a lot of the other industry throughout the UK. It is difficult. I do think that kind of maybe COVID and the way that life has changed in that respect may benefit more kind of rural or coastal locations in the long term, because people can work remotely, essentially doing a lot of different things. Whether or not that will make a difference, I don't know. We will see. It's yet to be seen. But
yeah, have you had much? Sorry, have you had much success recruiting out of the oil and gas industry for the maritime sector? Because that's essentially where we're looking to recruit people from. So yeah, the northeast coast and Aberdeen.
I think we'll see how it goes, because I think welders and fabricators in this area are reasonable. There's a fair old number of people around, and as Charlotte said, it's usually when there's a big demand for a short period where you might get some limitations. And certainly Hinkley Point nuclear power station development has taken quite a few people away from the area, from what I understand. But it's in some of the other trades that we do struggle, and certainly from it's applicable to boat building as well as some of these devices. Some of the electrical engineers, hydraulics, mechanical aspects, those are more difficult to get hold of. And there's local apprenticeship schemes around here for fabricators and welders, etc. That helps.
Yeah. And a number of our naval architects as well have literally come all over Europe previously. It's at one point two Italian gentlemen, one Hungarian, and it was really lovely to see, actually, that they could go into a job right here in Pembrokeshire and be in a beautiful location and yet have a really good quality job every day. So it is a real difficulty, but I think at the moment all we can do is kind of concentrate on our education programme. This industry is going to get bigger, and the challenges of gaining people is going to get even worse, and so we have to act now, really. And we're in constant conversations, this kind of collaboration between a number of different key players, a number of different stakeholders in Pembroke Dock, including the local college. So actually, for them to understand what our requirements are for the future, and so they can go to all of the other education institutes and say, can we bring in this course? Mainstay, is this something that would benefit you if we were able to bring this in? Yes, it is, or no, it isn't, or whatever. So it's very important that we keep speaking to the education, further and higher education institutes around us locally to keep feeding those people through, I guess.
Understand, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks, Edward. Yeah, I think it's a good point, and it's definitely great that companies like Mainstay are sort of engaging with stakeholder groups like the colleges, and I think on sort of projects that are hoping to have larger scale sort of arrays and things in the industry. It's good for them to develop kind of working groups to help build skills and training in the area and work with supply chain companies and developers alike. I think we have a couple more questions in the chat if we've still got time, which I think we do. So maybe Matt, do you want to come in from MEW? The question on standardization. I think you're on mute, Matt.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, I was just looking at the designs of the devices. They looked very different in nature. So I was wondering, are there any areas where you see processes that can be standardized to streamline larger scale production in the future?
Not particularly. I think if you go back to what we were saying at the very front, is we bespoke builders, designers and builders of workboats traditionally, and part of that is why I think it plays into our nature of being able to deliver whatever someone wants built. It's not our designs, of course, it's other people's designs, and we can realize those designs for them and help them get their device proven. If we do look at the process that we go through in terms of how we manufacture, whether we're able to do it, what materials are being used, etc. But I don't think there's anything in particular that stands out to say that if they all settled on this particular part of a device, then that would give them, like a foundation structure or something like that. Because everyone, I think, from the design perspective, seems to have their own ideas about everything at the moment, especially with the wave and tidal side of things.
Definitely more so.
You can see where wind power has has gone. That's pretty much standardised, and floating offshore wind being the next. That would be an interesting one, but it's pretty well defined, I think, in terms of what they're using.
I think it also makes a difference as to where the developers envisage putting the devices as well. The different locations, the different kind of wave height or whatever, that's obviously had an impact on their device. So there is going to be major disparity there on what their designs themselves. So yeah, I don't see that happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Thank you.
something to think about down the line. And then we do have a question again from Manuel, sort of talking on international scales, really. So did you want to come back in, Manuel?
Yeah, okay, now better prepared the settings. Because I'm based in Taiwan, and Taiwan has very low manufacturing capability. Okay. Because I'm based in Taiwan, and Taiwan has very low manufacturing capabilities, would be most interesting for me to export directly. Well, for me, it doesn't make any difference where in Europe, but to have equality and the standard as high as possible, and simply export from there to import to Taiwan. But the question always remains, because it's kinetic energy devices for wave and tidal power, how to maintain it? Because with the time, the devices will need spare parts, they will require repair and maintenance, and you're not really in the neighborhood.
I wish I was.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that relates more to the production aspects, I think. From a prototype device, quite often it'll be fabricated, launched, operated for a certain period, just to prove to the developer that it meets what they need, and then they'll look at perhaps even a different technology to build it to, but that proves the concept. And then, getting into spare supply and maintenance aspects of it, yes, they're no doubt in their thought process, but we don't really see a lot of that ourselves from the fabrication side. But yeah, your answer about perhaps put it into a freight container and ship it elsewhere, that's been done with us before for boats, where we've provided complete kits with all the drawings and everything else, and sent them abroad for someone else to fabricate, manufacture.
And also, I think at the moment, the devices themselves, they've all got quite different O&M requirements. So some of them, for example, so the Bombora device kind of sits at the bottom and each cell module's taken out for maintenance, whereas other devices are actually the whole device is taken out of the water and taken out of water for maintenance. So there's no kind of standardization for that either. So it's very device specific at the moment. It'd be interesting to see if we were local, how we as manufacturers could support servicing later on, as we do with boat builds at the moment. But I guess we haven't got to that stage yet, because the prototyping element hasn't got to that stage either. But we would certainly be interested in, looking at that opportunity for sure.
Do you see the possibility that I guess they are mostly SMEs companies, to either expand to the APEC region, or maybe an opposite way, to send people from the APEC region to you for training? So would be kind of know-how transfer and cooperation.
Yes, anything's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess knowledge can be exported, can't it? Whether that be, as you said, physically people, or what we're doing right now, virtual world, understand for other people to understand, for people to upskill that way. I guess, yeah, anything's a possibility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Manuel. I think that's all the questions that have been in the chat. I'll just open the floor if anyone does want to come in now with any other questions.
Thanks, Sophie. I got a few questions. Thanks, Charlotte. That was a great presentation. I just have a few questions, really. But I just want to make one comment on, we've had a few questions on the prototype and standardizing processes and O&M. I just want to say that with the technology readiness level, TRL level, when a device gets to Mainstay Marine, it's already been through testing, tank testing, maybe a quarter scale at a test facility. And by the time it comes to build a full scale device, the design would have been pretty much proven and good to go. And that's where the operations and maintenance then would come from the next few years as it moves up to TRL 9, which is the commercial stage and the end. And it's a very long process for any device. I suppose my first question is, we hear in the news all the time about the cost of steel, cost of materials. Have you noticed an increase in this year?
Yes.
Horrendously so.
Yeah, steel has been it's plentiful by the sound of it. We've had reports, because we go out quite often for putting bids in for boat builds as well as doing devices, and I think we've seen it go up by over 100% in the last year. Some quotes we've had have been, in materials into us have been over the £2,000 a ton for some of the steel. We build aluminium as well, and we find with aluminium what the problem is there is that yes, the price has gone up 25% or so, but it's the availability. It's very difficult to get hold of some of the aluminium, so it does depend. The wave electricity device, that was a concrete barge that was brought in, and we did all the modifications and the superstructure on that, which is all aluminium. If we were doing that today, that could be quite a challenge to actually get the materials in the timescale that people need it. So I think that's the thing. We were told earlier in the week when I put a request in for some aluminium prices that we were looking at probably a 6-month window to be sure of a delivery on certain products. Steel, as I said, seems to be available, and there's no doubt other people on the call who will be in the same position as getting steel in on a regular basis. But it depends on what steel you need, what certification you need with it. I think the higher certification is more readily available at the moment. That's my understanding.
Yeah,
No, so go ahead.
Sorry, Edward, go ahead.
So yeah, we're finding, so we used to get a 30-day price, and now we're getting quoted 7 days.
Yeah,
I think we had one for 3 days of the day.
3, okay, well, we're behind the curve then. We're getting a 7-day window to place an order, and we're still in the prototyping stage. I guess with TRL level 6, 7. So our stuff's only just going into the water for testing, and we're fabricating the next scale up, and any delay on placing the order just seems to drive our prices up 30% a month.
Yeah, it is very difficult.
Getting out of control. Yeah,
very difficult. Makes our life hard to quote against to the potential client as well at the moment.
You're talking about some floating offshore wind, which is the sector we're mainly focused on. We're looking to manufacture our first large-scale floating wind mooring system for 2023, and fabricate our steel work somewhere in the UK or Ireland at the same time. You think you're predominantly a workboat manufacturer and a vessel manufacturer. We would just be a subsea steel work requirements. I'm pitching for work from you. But we would probably manufacture that at that large scale in the United Kingdom, simply because the floating offshore wind in the UK is going to be potentially the biggest in Europe. Would South Wales be a good place to do it? I don't know what the floating offshore wind plans are for the Welsh coast, but certainly for the Irish coast, it's significant in the Irish Sea.
Yeah, I think we'd be kind of looking at the same sort of things you are, I guess, in the fact that the whole Celtic Sea region as a whole, our locations, the proximity to that location is a benefit to us, really. Access straight into the water makes logical sense. So it's definitely an area that we are looking at, and we're making connections as soon as we can, really, as more information's read through on exactly what each floating wind site is going to be doing. So it is definitely an area for us. Yeah.
I mean, I saw in the industry the UK government is investing in port facilities around the UK for floating offshore wind support and offshore renewables in general. Is Pembroke getting any of that money? Do you know?
Yeah, so there's a big development going ahead at the moment called the Swansea Bay City Deal project, which is basically on our site here. It's a £76 million project. Basically what it's doing is infilling a lot of the ground which is not being used at the moment, and it's flattening the area, taking down some workshops to accommodate marine energy developments as a whole, to accommodate developers to come in and manufacture here. So that work is, I think some of the work's been tendered out now for kind of more the design element, but that should be completed by 2023. Is that the timescale, I believe?
Oh, that's quite interesting. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
The Marine Energy Wales team are here today, and they'd be able to tell you more about that if you wanted to know more.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Were there any more questions? I know there's a comment from Shane in the chat just saying that they've had the same problem with the steel prices and availability. So I don't know, did you have any more questions, TJ?
Yes. That was a really interesting discussion. What Selkie project is about is the cross-border cooperation. You know, it'd be good if there was a plan in place that we could share resources or have a common pool. Edward, you mentioned about the ports. There's going to be a study upcoming as well about the feasibility of ports in the Celtic Sea area. They'll be looking at Cork, Dublin, Limerick, Foynes, Waterford, New Ross, Pembrokeshire, Swansea, of course, as well. The idea being that we would have one big base in one of the countries to service all that Celtic Sea region. That wasn't really a question. that was more of a statement. I suppose one last question, I'm just conscious of the time, is Mainstay. You mentioned earlier that you have good contact with the higher education institutes in your region. Do you do much research and development, or do you get much support or grants like through those channels?
I think in the nature of it, research and development is part of our job anyway. Being bespoke designers and builders, you know, we do an element of research and development in that. And I think anyone that's having to develop things, yes, you do look to see what you can get, but there's not a vast amount from the grant perspective at the moment for us. I mean, as I say, from this particular part, it's really about trying to help developers realise their dreams, if you like, and produce something for them that they can then test, demonstrate, and move on to other things. So we wouldn't obviously take any of the R&D from that part of it, but we are involved in R&D aspects of other things.
Okay, would you have much contact with companies in Ireland?
With who? Sorry, I missed that.
With companies in Ireland?
We've spoken to a few developers previously. We at present don't have a huge, actually, there's not that many relationships we've got with Ireland, but I think that's just been because we haven't had relationships, not because we wouldn't want to. Yeah. And you know, as I said, if we're looking at the bigger picture, we are going to have to, if we're looking at the Celtic Sea region as a whole, we're looking at ensuring that the marine energy industry grows in the way that it should. We can't do this alone, so we have to think of the bigger picture and having kind of a base of people that we can work with and collaborate with for the greater good, to be honest. So,
right, one last question. I started with the Selkie project 2 years ago, and I've been working with Marine Energy Wales since. And one of the things I really admire is the cluster that works in your area. You have a marine renewable energy cluster, and it seems to be managed and kept together by Marine Energy Wales. They can achieve results and achieve projects quite quickly. What do you think of that cluster? Does it work? Could we replicate it, say, in Cork? And what are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely think Marine Energy Wales is a fantastic organisation that has achieved some fantastic things, brought people together to communicate. The networking aspects alone, but actually the information that they provide from individual experts and that field of people, as you say, now becoming a marine energy hub, help to bring in money into the sector, help to bring the test types in. I genuinely think that's one of the reasons when we speak to developers, we can say we're here, and we can genuinely say we've got really good relationships with a number of different stakeholders in the area. We're part of this hub, and developers, they believe it, and so they should, and they can see the value in it as well. So yeah, I definitely think it's something that you should replicate where you are. It's fantastic added value to the whole industry. Yeah,
that's a very positive answer. Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Great, thanks for the questions, TJ. I think now we're probably coming up to time. I suppose if there are any further questions beyond the session, either feel free to submit them to me in my email, or perhaps if Charlotte and Mel, if you have a way of people getting in contact with you, we could share that. So I just want to say a big thank you to Charlotte and Mel for the presentation, and also the discussion, which was brilliant. I think we touched on quite a few topics there, and some really interesting things came out of that. So thank you to everyone for your questions. As we mentioned, the event has been recorded, so the recording will be available shortly. And if you want to hear more about the project and things going on in the network, do sign up to our newsletter, or just keep an eye on our Twitter and LinkedIn. And as I mentioned, we've got a few more sessions coming up in a couple of weeks. So the next session will be on the 2nd of September with Sabina Group, who I think we have John here today from that. So looking forward to that session, and definitely if you're available, register, and we hope to see you there. So I think now coming up to the hour, I'll just say thank you and hope you all have a brilliant day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Very good.
Thank you.
Take care.